I always wondered why my girlfriend was so chill about losing our $2,000 security deposit. Then we moved the bookshelf, and I realized she wasn't being laid back. She was hiding a 2-year-old crime scene that would make Andy Dick look like a saint. The biohazard behind the mahogany. The apartment was 90% echo and 10% shame. After 3 years of domestic bliss, we were down to the heavy hitters. You know that stage of moving, where your back feels like a glow stick about to snap, and you're vibrating from a dangerous combination of 3 espressos and 0 actual food. We were final boss moving. I stood over our vintage mahogany dresser, a beast of a piece that weighed more than a compact car, and had occupied the north corner of the bedroom since the day we signed the lease. It was the anchor of the room, the silent witness to our lives. On 3, I grunted, wiping a smear of gray dust onto my jeans. 1, 2, heave. The wood groaned against the floorboards, sliding 6 inches to the left. And that's when the air changed. It wasn't just a smell, it was a physical confrontation. A thick, invisible wall of stinging ammonia and fermented regret hit me square in the face. It felt like someone had shoved a gym sock soaked in cat urine and old batteries directly into my nostrils. Jesus. I recoiled, pulling my shirt over my nose. Babe, tell me a stray cat didn't crawl behind here and die 3 years ago. It smells like a literal litter box exploded. Did the neighbor's tabby find a portal through the floorboards? I peered into the dark, rectangular graveyard where the dresser used to be. The carpet wasn't just stained. It looked like it had been through a chemical warfare simulation. It was a crusty, yellowish-brown Rorschach test that screamed, "Your security deposit is currently on fire." I looked at her, expecting a look of shared disgust. Instead, she just stood there, clutching a roll of packing tape, looking at the stain with the calm, detached expression of a museum curator. "Yeah," she said, her voice terrifyingly casual. "About that." The natural disaster confession. I was still gagging, my shirt pulled up over my nose like a makeshift gas mask, staring at the crusty Rorschach test on the floor. I looked at her, waiting for the, "Oh my God, what is that?" reaction. Instead, she just adjusted her ponytail. She had that terrifyingly calm, "We need to talk" face. The kind people usually say for admitting they accidentally dented a car or forgot to pay the electric bill. "Okay, so," she started, her voice as casual as if she were reciting a grocery list. "Remember that one weekend about 2 years ago? The one where you went to your cousin's bachelor party in Vegas, and I stayed home to binge-watch that true crime docuseries?" I nodded slowly, my brain frantically trying to connect Vegas to Biohazard Corner. "Well," she continued, gesturing toward the opposite side of the room, where a massive, floor-to-ceiling IKEA bookshelf had stood like a silent sentinel for 24 months. I was over there. I had just gotten out of the shower, I think. I was wearing these loose gym shorts. No underwear. Just airing out. I felt a cold sweat that had nothing to do with the physical labor of moving. I leaned down, she said, squinting as she recalled the finer details of the catastrophe. I was squatting to pick up a dropped hair tie, and it just happened. A total catastrophic system failure. A shart of biblical proportions. It wasn't a warning shot, babe. It was the whole cannon. I stared at her. The silence in the empty apartment was deafening. I looked at the spot where the bookshelf used to be. The carpet there didn't just look stained. It looked like it had been through a localized mudslide that had since petrified into a dark, forbidden relic. "I didn't have any heavy-duty cleaner," she added, her tone shifting into a defensive, Andy Dick style of chaotic logic. And I knew if I scrubbed it, it would just smear and the smell would haunt me all weekend. So I just looked at the bookshelf. It was empty anyway. I slid the whole thing 3 feet to the left until it covered the evidence perfectly. Problem solved. Problem solved? I choked out, my voice cracking. You didn't solve problem. You archived a crime scene. You basically built a monument to your own shame and then made me keep my hardback thrillers on top of it for 2 years. She shrugged, a small, unapologetic smirk playing on her lips. I mean, it worked, didn't it? We never smelled it until today. It's like a time capsule, a gross organic time capsule. I looked at her, the woman I shared a bed with, the woman I was currently moving into a new apartment with, and realized I didn't know her at all. She wasn't just a girlfriend. She was a tactical genius of domestic deception, the architecture of denial. I stood there, paralyzed, looking from the cat pee corner to the chart shelf, like a detective connecting strings on a corkboard. My brain was performing backflips, trying to process the timeline. 2 years. I whispered, the words tasting like drywall dust and betrayal. You've let a biological hazard marinate under our literature for 730 days? I sat on the floor right there to build that Lego set last Christmas. I was breathing that. Sarah. She waved a dismissive hand, the way a queen might dismiss a peasant complaining about the weather. Oh, stop being so dramatic. It's basically carbon now. It's part of the floor's ecosystem. Besides, she added, pointing a roll of bubble wrap at me like a loaded weapon, it's not like I didn't try to fix it. I sprayed a little Febreze toward the baseboards once a week. I called it the Great Wall of Linen Scent. I looked at the bookshelf, now sitting in the middle of the room, stripped of its books, looking guilty as hell. The bottom board was slightly warped. I realized with a jolt of horror that the wood hadn't settled. It had absorbed the historical record of that fateful Vegas weekend. Is that why you wouldn't let me buy that rug? I asked, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. Last summer, I found that perfect Persian runner for this side of the room, and you acted like I was suggesting we decorate with live scorpions. You said it would clutter the flow of the room. Well, yeah, she admitted, finally cracking a tiny, unrepentant grin. If you put a rug down, you might have moved the shelf to center it. I was protecting the flow. Babe, I was protecting us. The logic was flawless in its insanity. She hadn't just moved furniture. She had curated a living space around a secret. She was an interior designer of deception. Every time she'd ask me to vacuum, everywhere but under the heavy stuff because of my allergies, she wasn't being a neat freak. She was a gatekeeper of the abyss. And the dresser? I pointed to the ammonia-scented corner. What's the story there? Did you have a cat I never met? Or was that just another system failure from a Tuesday night I worked late? She actually had the audacity to look offended. No, that one actually was a leak in the ceiling from the upstairs neighbor's bathroom. I think. Or maybe the radiator. Either way, the dresser was already there. So I just let it be. It's called zoning, Justin. Some zones are for living, and some zones are for things we don't talk about until the lease is up. I looked at our new apartment keys, sitting on the counter. The shiny brass felt like a lie. If this was what she did with an IKEA shelf and a mahogany dresser, what was she planning for the new place? Was she already eyeing the walk-in closet as a potential site for a future Chernobyl? We are never getting that deposit back, I muttered, sliding down the wall, far away from any corners. The landlord isn't going to send a cleaning crew. He's going to send a priest and a guy in a hazmat suit. She just shrugged and tossed me a roll of tape. Good thing we used your credit card for the deposit. Then, now, help me move the sofa. I think I dropped a burrito behind it in 2024. The final walkthrough of doom. The van was loaded. The apartment was an empty shell of white walls and scarred flooring. All that was left was the walkthrough. I stood by the front door, sweating through my moving day t-shirt, watching our landlord, Mr. Henderson, approach with a clipboard and a look of professional suspicion. My girlfriend stood next to me, looking radiant, scrolling through TikTok as if she hadn't spent the last 48 hours revealing she was a secret agent for a big biohazard. All right, Henderson grunted, stepping into the bedroom. Let's see the damage. I held my breath. I expected the floorboards to start screaming. I expected the ghost of the Vegas shark to manifest as a dark cloud and demand an apology. Henderson walked right over to the dresser corner. He sniffed. He frowned. Then he walked over to the bookshelf zone. He poked the dark, petrified patch of carpet with the toe of his boot. Looks like some heavy water damage here, he muttered, scribbling on his clipboard. And the ammonia smell in the corner? You kids have a hidden cat. Actually, my girlfriend said, stepping forward with a smile so sweet it could cause cavities. We think the radiator had a slow leak behind the dresser for a year. We tried to tell the super, but he never came. And that spot? I think a bottle of red wine shattered there during the earthquake last spring. I scrubbed and scrubbed, but you know how these cheap carpets are. She looked at him with big, innocent eyes. Henderson sighed, checked a box, and shrugged. Fine, I'll just deduct $500 for a professional steam clean and call it even. You'll get the rest of the deposit by mail. I couldn't speak. I just stared at her. She had just gaslit a man out of $1,500 using nothing but a fake radiator leak and a non-existent earthquake. We walked out of that building, and as the heavy lobby door clicked shut, she turned to me and winked. See? Architecture denial, Justin, is a lifestyle. The paranoia of new beginnings. 2 weeks later, we were settled into the new place. It was beautiful. High ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows, and most importantly, brand new cream-colored carpets. But the peace was gone. Every time I hear a floorboard creak, I wonder if it's settling or there's a fresh deposit being made. Every time she asked me to help her move the new sectional sofa, just a few inches to the left to catch the light, my heart rate spikes to 140. I've started doing topographical sweeps of the apartment when she goes to work. I'm like a CSI investigator in my own home. I bought a high-intensity UV blacklight off Amazon. I wait until she's asleep, then I roam the hallways like a neurotic ghost, shining the purple light on the baseboards, looking for the telltale glow of another Vegas weekend. Last night, I found a small, dark smudge behind the guest room door. I spent 45 minutes on my hands and knees sniffing it. "What are you doing?" she asked, standing in the doorway with a glass of water. "Just checking the structural integrity of the molding." I lied, scrambled to my feet. She looked at the spot, then looked at me. She didn't say anything. She just smiled that Andy Dick smile, the one that says, "I know something you don't," and walked back to bed. I don't think I'll ever truly be moved in. I'm just a man living in a world of strategically placed furniture, waiting for the next bookshelf to move.